started here. We're happy to have Representative Adam Smith here. He's going to speak first, followed by Professor Tom Koviak. So, can hear? Is that better? Yes. Followed by Grisel Rodriguez, who is Nestora's daughter, and some representatives from the committee. Thank you all. There's copies of the press release and a statement from El Centro de la Raza on the front table here if you haven't had one.
Thank you very much. I'm Adam Smith. I'm the congressman who represents the, try to get the microphone close enough so people can hear me. Okay. My name is Adam Smith. I'm the congressman who represents the 9th District. Ms. Salgado and her family are constituents of mine, and I'm just here today to support her family, and her legal team as we fight to try to get her free. She is being unlawfully held in Mexico, as you know, with no due process and under very, very dangerous conditions. There has been a federal court order in Mexico to free her that has not been heeded by the states. And my role, what I'm trying to do, what my office is trying to do, is bring as much attention to this situation as possible to hopefully put pressure on the Mexican government to do whatever they have to do to make sure that the right thing happens. And I worked a few years ago on a case in Nicaragua where we had a similar situation, and you put pressure on the government, it does make a difference. They will, in fact, respond if you keep the pressure up. The key here, in my mind, is to bring public attention to this, to try, if nothing else, to shame the Mexican government into doing the right thing, because this is a very, very dangerous situation. So I've worked with colleagues to send a letter to Secretary Kerry to urge our State Department to put maximum pressure on the Mexican government. We're going to continue to follow up on that, and whatever our State Department, whatever the United States can do to pressure the Mexican government to force her release, we are going to do. We are going to be as helpful as we possibly can. And mostly that's all I have to say, except for family members, the legal team, whatever I or my office can do to be helpful to you, please don't hesitate to ask. We want to get Ms. Salgado free as soon as is humanly possible. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you so much, Representative Smith. Your words of support and encouragement are so appreciated by both the family and the legal team representing Nestora Salgado. Everyone, my name is Tom Koviak. I direct the Human Rights Clinic here at Seattle University School of Law. My clinic is leading international efforts and Nestora's defense before the United Nations and before the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. As Congressman Smith just stated, Nestora Salgado has suffered many severe human rights abuses. This is absolutely clear. Let's review exactly what we have confirmed. First, she was illegally arrested for community work in an indigenous village of Guerrero, Mexico. Guerrero law and the Mexican Constitution guarantee the rights of indigenous communities to their own security institutions. Salgado was a leader of a community police group that is officially part of state law enforcement, and it had the express approval of Guerrero's governor. However, when her group arrested a local official for committing a crime, she was seized by military forces and flown nearly 1,000 kilometers away to a maximum security prison in Nayarit, Mexico. Since the detention 10 months ago, her attorneys have been unable to visit her. On March 31st, as mentioned by Representative Smith, a Mexican federal judge ruled that she was acting illegally as an authorized leader of her indigenous community and ordered her immediate release. However, she's still in jail because of unfounded state charges against her. These state charges relate to the same allegation that she acted in an unauthorized manner in the community. These same arguments were rejected by the federal tribunal, as I just mentioned, but state courts have not responded to defense motions to dismiss these charges and to grant her release, allowing all of the court's legal deadlines to pass. 2 weeks ago, a Mexican congressional delegation visited Salgado and verified alarming detention conditions and due process violations. In a public statement, the Mexican leader has denounced that she has been refused clean water and medical treatment and has been held in virtual isolation, suffering, quote, psychological torture, end quote. In sum, Nestora suffered flagrant violations of her most basic human rights. We call upon Mexican and U.S. authorities to work for her immediate release. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Guerrero, her daughter.
First of all, I would like to thank all of you present for taking the time to come here today. I would also like to thank Congressman Adam Smith for speaking out on behalf of my mother, and for the immense support that the community has shown us. My family is also grateful to the assistance of Thomas Antowiak of the Seattle University School of Law and Alejandra Gonza, Human Rights Attorney. Finally, I must thank the Freedom for Nestora Committee and the many organizations and labor unions that have joined the campaign to free my mother. My mom is a person with strong morals and a huge heart. That is why she never forgot her hometown or the situation that the family lived back in Olinala in the state of Guerrero. When intense violence reached the communities in Guerrero after 2000, she tried to help in any way she could. And this is how she got involved in the community police, or comunitaria. The community police is a legal organization that works under Law 701, which allows indigenous communities to form autonomous police forces when the government fails to provide safety for you or your family. The Olinala Community Police works within the Regional Coordinator of Community Authority, an organization that has been in existence for the past 18 years. Contrary to how some of the media have portrayed the community police as gun-toting vigilantes, they are in fact a group of community members that primarily do social service work, such as providing hurricane relief to the devastated communities that were forgotten by the state government after the tropical storm in the area last October. When they are called on to make arrests, these arrests are given a fair trial at the local House of Justice, and most people who violated local laws were given a sentence of community service. Due to the fact that my mother was a well-known and respected person, and due to her ongoing community service since 2004, she was elected by the community to be the coordinator of the comunitaria in Olinala. What this means basically is that she was the voice of the community. The truth is, my mom is a political prisoner. The government has singled her out to make an example of, and this has become a personal vendetta against her. Since she was arrested on August 21st, 2013, our family has been living a nightmare. Nestora Salgado is not only a community leader, she's also a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. She's a family-oriented person. We've had to spend a lot of holidays without her. And her grandchildren ask for her constantly, because they're too young to understand. We can't explain to them the situation that's going on. But our nightmare doesn't compare to the horror that my mom has been living with for the past 10 months. She's been kept in isolation in a cell that's brightly lit 24 hours a day. She's made to drink dirty well water, which has made her ill. Due to rocks and debris in the food that she's been served, she's broken a molar. She hasn't been allowed to call my dad or me here in the United States, even though other prisoners are able to make U.S. phone calls. What breaks her heart the most is she complains. My mother complains of being hungry during every single visit visit that my sister is able to make to the prison where she's being held. We've spent thousands of dollars to enable my sister and my aunt to make the long journey to visit my mom on a regular basis. We must do this because these visits are the only social interaction she's allowed. My family and I are pleading for your help to secure her release and to bring her back home. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sue Dossicle, and I'm the chair of the, can you hear me? And I'm the chair of the Freedom for Nestora Committee here in Seattle. The campaign to free Nestora Salgado began here in the Northwest last fall when local activists made contact with her family in Renton after learning about their attempts to draw attention to Ms. Salgado's illegal detention. Our first action was a protest on December 10th, International Human Rights Day, at the Mexican Consulate in Seattle. Word spread, and then simultaneous protests were held in 5 other cities, and solidarity actions were held in Mexico, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Australia, France, and Austria. The Seattle Freedom for Nestora Committee has received support from across Washington State, where Nestora has lived for the past 22 years. Her heroic efforts to protect women and community members in her hometown of Olinala from violence, drug traffickers, and corruption have earned her the respect and admiration of a broad cross-section of organizations. Nestora has been held in inhumane conditions with no access to her attorneys for 10 months now. We strongly urge political leaders at every level in Washington State to join Congressman Adam Smith in calling for justice for Nestora Salgado. It's clear that she's a political prisoner who is innocent of the fraudulent charges that have been brought against her. A Mexican federal judge has already ruled that Salgado is carrying out her legal duties as the elected leader of Olinala's community police force. In fact, this community police force was formed at the urging of the governor of Guerrero, who supplied them with trucks, uniforms, and small arms. It was only when they enforced the laws in an even-handed manner, without regard to who had political connections, that the community police came under attack. Our committee is often asked, why has it taken so long for justice to be done, and why Nestora Salgado has been specially targeted? Here is what we know. Following Nestora's, well, beyond the fact of the incident with the local sheriff that was described earlier, following Nestora's imprisonment, dozens of other community police were also arrested, and 12 still remain in prison. They include indigenous leaders Gonzalo Molina and Arturo Campos, who led protests against Nestora's arrest, and whose family our committee is also supporting. All of the detainees are from towns and villages which sit on huge reserves of gold and silver, and who are attempting to stop the encroachment of international mining companies, such as Gold Corp Incorporated, which is based in Vancouver, BC, from ravaging their land, water, and way of life. Finally, Nestora has been particularly targeted as a woman leader. But her honesty, integrity, and fearlessness have made her a hero not only in Mexico, but here as well. On August 21st, it'll be 1 year since Nestora was imprisoned. If she is not free by that date, an International Day of Action is being planned by her supporters in several countries, and the Seattle Committee will be participating in those actions. We will not stop until Nestora is free. And now I'd like to ask Miriam Padilla, who's also a member of our committee, to make a final comment.
Good afternoon. My name is Miriam Padilla, and I'm a high school student and member of the Libertad para Nestora Committee here in Seattle. The committee would like to thank Adam Smith for speaking out on Nestora Salgado's behalf. Nestora's story touches people from many backgrounds. She and her family are working class people. Jose, Nestora's husband, is a carpenter, and Nestora held jobs as a maid and a restaurant worker. Nestora's outspoken feminism and her advocacy for her indigenous community have won her wide support. Latino, African American, Native American communities, labor unions, and women's organizations have all spoken out on her behalf. Nestora Salgado reminds me of Rosa Parks, who was arrested and fined for violating a city ordinance, but whose act of defiance began a movement that helped end legal segregation in the U.S. As a woman, Nestora defended her community and is an inspiring leader for indigenous people everywhere. But Nestora now remains at great physical risk. So we are calling on Secretary of State John Kerry to intervene immediately to obtain her release. The campaign to free Nestora Salgado has gained enormous support, with over 120 organizations and prominent individuals endorsing, several of whom are here today. Important supporters of this campaign include King County Council member Larry Gossett, the Washington State Labor Council, El Centro de la Raza, Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee, Washington Federation of State Employees Council 28, the Seattle King County Building and Construction Trades Council, Pacific Northwest Regional Council of Carpenters, the Freedom Socialist Party, one of the first to initiate this campaign because of their long-time involvement in immigration and indigenous cases. The Coalition of Black Trade Unionists and Puyallup Tribal Elder Nancy Shippentauer have also supported Nestora, as have feminist organizations including the Puget Sound Coalition of Trade Union Women, and Radical Women. I got involved with this campaign when I asked myself, what if it was my mother, my sister or grandmother who were in Nestora's shoes? I urge everyone in the community to ask themselves the same question and show your support for this courageous woman and her family. Thank you.
All right. We have a few minutes for questions, so I think Representative Smith and Professor Ankoviak and Grisel, if you guys want to come up. If you guys have questions. Thank you.
Representative Smith, when was this letter sent to Secretary of State Kerry?
I believe it was sent in April, it was a couple months ago. We're in constant communication. We're still in communication with the State Department to follow up on that. And I know they've been in communication with the Mexican government. We're just going to have to keep putting pressure on them.
I mean, is there some new development?
Not at this point. The legal team, if there was anything more than that. But we have brought to their attention, the State Department has brought to their attention the due process violations, the diet of numerous throughout this case. There has been virtually no effort to follow, due process under Mexican law. And we're going to continue to harp on that point and try to put pressure on the Mexican government to do what's right here and release Ms. Salgado.
Is it your impression that John Kerry is personally involved in this?
Yes, he's very much aware of it. We would like them to be more involved, and we're going to keep pushing on them to be more involved.
But his office has contacted the Mexican government and done what?
I'm not sure exactly what they've done other than to communicate our concern about the due process violations and about the health conditions. So we're going to keep following up on that. In the Jason Piricol case in Nicaragua, regrettably it took a while and it took a lot of contacts between our State Department and the Nicaraguan government before we got them to relent. I know the State Department has raised this issue. I know John Kerry has raised this issue with the Mexican government. I don't know specifically how they've responded or what their plans are for next steps.
If I could just add actually to one of the questions about recent developments, just to sort of emphasize one of our points earlier, a Mexican congressional delegation, after 3 months of trying to get into this maximum security prison and to visit Nestora Salgado, finally was allowed to visit after all sorts of obstruction by Mexican authorities, While they were there, they simply verified and corroborated what we've been informing the Mexican government and U.S. authorities all along for inhumane detention conditions and the flagrant due process violations.
So Tom, so
Yes.
you wrote a letter to the UN,
Yes.
Committee on Human Rights, I believe, or something like that. So how did you get a response?
Yeah, so this was back in November. We actually submitted a petition to UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. I have received an official response, and my impression right now is that Mexico is providing them information, and they're examining that information.
So, what could be the difference between Nestora's case and the Guerrero's community police in Michoacán? Because 2 weeks ago, the Mexican government released a couple of the leaders of the Michoacán police community for the same reason of Nestora being held in jail.
Right.
What could be the difference in this case?
Let me refer that question to co-counsel Alejandra Mansa.
Well, that's a very difficult question because there's a political decision with Michoacán that has not yet been done with the police community. There are differences between them. Michoacán forces are not like illegally formed as the police community that has this law, 701, that is regulating and establishing that the police community is state enforcement, part of the state security. The situation in Michoacán has been negotiated and it's really complicated, it's completely different. They already established a commissioner from the Michoacán situation, so members or leaders of the commission are already negotiating directly with the federal government about the situation, what they are going to do, if they are going to disarm or if they are going to register their arm under the state law or the federal law. And they will be recognized as part of the law enforcement that they were not before. That's the main difference. The police community is already recognizing law and they were working under that law.
Is there was the case raised in an hemispheric court, the Organization of American States? Is there a report on the status of the case in that court?
Absolutely. So we have submitted a petition also before the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights for precautionary measures, which is like an injunction, right? It's for this commission, which is not a binding court, unfortunately, but to urge the government of Mexico to provide her with humane detention conditions and potentially to release her. The commission has responded very favorably, although it hasn't actually submitted recommendations to the state of Mexico yet. We're hopeful that it will, and when it does, we'll certainly notify all of you, and foremost Representative Smith.
And how is that commission established? Does it have representatives from different governments on it?
It does, yes. It's a hemispheric commission, as you said, associated with the Organization of American States.
What are you asking people to do? I mean, write to their congressman, write to Secretary of State Kerry, right? I mean, what is it you want people to do?
So we have a sort of a multi-dimensional strategy here. We're working with political leaders like Representative Smith, which his support will be crucial as we move forward, try to get more representatives, more senators involved. So we need the United States political support to pressure Mexico. So there's a political element. There's also a legal element that we're pursuing through international human rights mechanisms and then the national mechanisms, that is the Mexican criminal courts. And we've helped secure a very fine criminal defense attorney for Nestora in Mexico, and so he's doing the local criminal defense work.
I just read it.
Yeah.
The other big piece of this is just put it in the media. Let this story be told. And that's, whether it's a YouTube video, forgive me, I'm not updated all the different ways to communicate on the internet. But whatever it is, the more it's communicated, to frankly draw attention to the Mexican government's violation of due process, to try to shame them into doing the right thing by bringing broader and broader attention to the grave injustice that's being done here. So you want attention, bottom line, that will help.
So those of you that speak Spanish, can you tell me how this is being covered in the Spanish media and the Mexican media? Is this seen as symbolic that something larger going on? How is she being portrayed? Is it controversial at all?
media in the state of Guerrero is being covered pretty much every single day.
Every day.
Yes, I got this party with not knowing that they're being writing every single day. Sometimes you see it in the national media, but I mean, we know the national media is controlled by the state government. So I mean, these issues, they try to keep, kind of hiding from the public view. But in the local and the state level, there's been a lot of media attention.
And how has she been portrayed? What are they,
Well, she's been portrayed as a political prisoner.
as a,
Yes. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the retaliation she's experienced when people come in to border situation?
Well, it's been a lot of protests in the whole state, but the state government has been sending thousands and thousands of soldiers to control these protests. And this is a statement the state governor did, right after he took office, he said, I'm gonna be really tough in any type of protest. So, there she is, I mean, since he took power, 18 activists have been killed. Right now, many organizations at the state level are pushing for the freedom of 50 people that we consider are political prisoners. Just in the state of Guerrero.
Griselle, I wondered if you could tell us where things stand with the senators in Washington State. I know that your family has been in touch with them, and are they moving towards supporting the call for release of Nestora?
We have been in contact with several offices, Patty Murray and Marie Campbell's office, but other than Congressman Adam Smith, we haven't received any real response from those other two offices.
So that's someplace we could put some pressure.
Yeah, definitely. I think the more we pressure, the more pressure we put, the more social pressure that there is, the more likely they are to, start acting in. I think it'll be the social pressure that, we put on the government that will ultimately bring my mom back home.
How often are the visitations to see her down there?
She is able to receive a visit every 12 days, but although the time slot for the visitation is from 1 to 5, they cut it in half all the time. When my sister goes to see her, she has to be there by 12, and she isn't attended till 2. And by the time she's able to see my mom, she only has an hour to see her. Even though they make the journey of almost 24-hour journey just to see her every 12 days. Sometimes they take her, when she's presented to my sister, she's handcuffed and blindfolded.
All right. Thank you guys all for coming. Some people will be here after if you want to talk to them, but I know the Congressman has to get going, so thank you all.
What was that?
My colleague.
You look up there in the summer, but I don't see it. In Alaska, running around.
Bueno, yo hablé directamente a los logramos llegar a la
I'm hoping I'll go back and get them now. Thanks for being here.